It is the 41st Millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of mankind has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, a desiccated corpse, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day, so that he may never truly die. His Imperium, the grand dream of human unification, is a corpse empire suffocating under the weight of its own grotesque, grinding bureaucracy. It is an empire of ignorance, fear, and superstition, where progress is heresy, and the only truth is the divine right of a dead man. In the vaulted cavernous chambers of the Senatorum Imperialis, the High Lords of Terror convene. They are the 12 most powerful individuals in the galaxy, yet they are paralyzed by tradition and self-interest. Lord Chancellor Trazis, his body more machine than man, drones on about parchment shortages in the Administratum. Fabricator General Kelbarhal, a name held by every Fabricator General for 10 millennia in honor of the original, presents a schematic for a new pattern of lasgun that will take 4 centuries to approve. And Grand Master Vask of the Officio Assassinorum merely watches his eyes hidden in shadow, calculating the political cost of killing the man next to him. They are vultures presiding over a feast of stagnation. They debate the color of uniforms for a regiment that was annihilated 3 centuries prior, while entire star systems are devoured by the tyrannid hive fleets. This is the government of mankind. A sclerotic, dying heart, pumping poison through the veins of a crumbling colossus. The Emperor's light the Astronomicon flickers. It is the psychic beacon that guides humanity's ships through the hellscape of the warp, the dimension of pure chaos. It is powered by the daily screaming sacrifice of 10,000 psychers, their souls burned out like fuses their agony, a constant background psychic noise across all of Terra. Hope is a forgotten word, a relic of a brighter age. The only currency is blind obedience. The only prayer is one for a quick death in the Emperor's name. The ecclesiarchy, the monolithic state church, preaches this dogma of sacrifice from every pulpit on 1,000,000 worlds. They have twisted the Emperor's original imperial truth, a creed of secular reason, into a grotesque, violent cult that demands total unquestioning faith in a god he never wished to be. It was in the midst of this grand, slow decay that reality broke. It happened without warning. No Chaos Fleet appeared in orbit. No Genestealer cult rose from the underhives. There was just a distortion. High above the spires of the Imperial Palace, a section of the smog-choked sky simply tore. It did not bleed the familiar, maddening colors of the arch-enemy. It did not shimmer with the ethereal light of the Eldari webway. It tore open into a vortex of pure, blinding, almost offensively bright gold. It was not the sacred ancient auramite of the Emperor's custodians. It was a gaudy, polished, reflective gold. A cheap gold. A loud gold. The psychic shockwave that erupted from it was not one of malice or damnation, but of ego. A singular, overwhelming psychic broadcast of absolute, narcissistic self-assurance. It was a psychic noise so potent and so bizarre that astropaths across the planet clutched their heads, not in pain, but in sheer bewildered confusion. From this vulgar golden rift, an object plummeted. It was a winged craft, a relic of ancient pre-imperial design built long before the age of strife. Its metal skin was painted in forgotten national colors of blue and white, though now scorched, melted, and fused by the unenergies of the Imperium. The glyphs on its side, archaic symbols from the dawn of the Age of Terror, were barely legible: AIR, FORCE, ONE. It fell like a wounded bird crashing with a metallic scream into one of the vast continent-sized plazas of the palace. It was a square dedicated to the triumph of St. Drusus, and the ancient craft carved a molten trough through a mile-long procession of granite statues vaporizing millennia of history, before skidding to a halt against the adamantium boot of a 400-foot-tall statue of Lord Commander Militant Hesperus. The crash was catastrophic, yet the central fuselage remained miraculously, almost stubbornly intact, as if protected by a bubble of sheer improbable self-importance. A moment of profound silence descended upon the plaza, broken only by the crackle of burning promethium and the whirring of agitated servo skulls. Then a sharp hiss of pneumatics. A ramp lowered from the smoking wreckage. From the darkness within, a figure emerged, squinting against the oppressive Gothic architecture and the polluted air. He was not a warrior king. He was not a scarred veteran. He was a man fleshy and pale, clad in strange, archaic vestments, a suit of dark blue fabric, a white shirt, and a long, bright red sash hanging from his neck. This was not the crimson of a hero's sash. It was the red of pure, belligerent defiance. He was Donald J. Trump preserved by the non-linear chaotic tides of the warp, plucked from his own time and deposited 40 millennia into the future. He straightened his tie, this ancient forgotten sash of honor, and patted down his strange golden-spun hair, which seemed to defy the very gravity of terror with its rigid structure. The reaction was not human. It was divine. It was immediate. Before the man could take a second breath of terror's recycled atmosphere, he was surrounded. They moved not like men, but like golden lightning. The Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's own bodyguard, the 10,000. They materialized from the shadows of the plaza, emerging from alcoves and descending from high ramparts, their auramite plate untouched by the filth of the ages. 10 giants, each a 10-foot-tall demigod, their guardian spears leveled their red plumes stark against the black smoke. Their very presence radiated an aura of absolute authority, a palpable weight of duty and lethal intent. They were the finest warriors humanity had ever produced, and they were for the first time in millennia utterly baffled. Their senses registered the being as baseline human, yet not. He possessed no known clearance, no genetic marker of authority, no psychic signature they recognized. He was an anomaly of profound existential weight, a walking, talking paradox. The Captain General of the Custodes, his armor a masterpiece of artifice and war, stepped forward. His voice, a synthesized boom from his helm, was the sound of judgment itself. He spoke in flawless High Gothic, the language of the Emperor himself. Identify anomaly. Your presence here is sacrilege. Your vessel has defiled the sacred grounds of the sanctum. Speak your designation, or be purified by fire. Trump, dazed, confused, and suffering from the psychic equivalent of a terrible migraine, looked at the giants surrounding him. He saw their glittering weapons, their impassive golden masks, their intimidating height. He did not see protectors of mankind. He saw bad security. He saw a poorly managed event. He looked up at the towering Captain General, his face twisting from confusion to a deep, profound indignation. He brushed the dust from his suit jacket. This is a terrible reception, just terrible. The worst. I'm supposed to be the guest of honor, and this is what I get sad. You're all doing a very poor job. Very poor. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. I have the best lawyers. You have no idea. You're going to be in big trouble, big trouble. Opening the Golden Warp Storm. It is the 41st Millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of mankind has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, a desiccated corpse writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day, so that he may never truly die. His Imperium, the grand dream of human unification, is a corpse empire suffocating under the weight of its own grotesque, grinding bureaucracy. It is an empire of ignorance, fear, and superstition, where progress is heresy, and the only truth is the divine right of a dead man. In the vaulted cavernous chambers of the Senatorum Imperialis, the High Lords of Terror convene. They are the 12 most powerful individuals in the galaxy, yet they are paralyzed by tradition and self-interest. Lord Chancellor Trazis, his body more machine than man, drones on about parchment shortages in the Administratum. Fabricator General Kelber Hal, a name held by every Fabricator General for 10 millennia in honor of the original presence, a schematic for a new pattern of lasgun that will take 4 centuries to approve. And Grandmaster Vask of the Officio Assassinorum merely watches his eyes hidden in shadow, calculating the political cost of killing the man next to him. They are vultures presiding over a feast of stagnation. They debate the color of uniforms for a regiment that was annihilated 3 centuries prior, while entire star systems are devoured by the tyrannid hive fleets. This is the government of mankind. A sclerotic, dying heart pumping poison through the veins of a crumbling colossus. The Emperor's light the Astronomicon flickers. It is the psychic beacon that guides humanity's ships through the hellscape of the warp, the dimension of pure chaos. It is powered by the daily screaming sacrifice of 10,000 psychers, their souls burned out like fuses their agony, a constant background psychic noise across all of Terra. Hope is a forgotten word, a relic of a brighter age. The only currency is blind obedience. The only prayer is one for a quick death in the Emperor's name. The ecclesiarchy, the monolithic state church, preaches this dogma of sacrifice from every pulpit on a million worlds. They have twisted the Emperor's original imperial truth, a creed of secular reason, into a grotesque, violent cult that demands total, unquestioning faith in a god he never wished to be. It was in the midst of this grand, slow decay that reality broke. It happened without warning. No Chaos Fleet appeared in orbit. No Genestealer cult rose from the underhives. There was just a distortion. High above the spires of the Imperial Palace, a section of the smog-choked sky simply tore. It did not bleed the familiar, maddening colors of the arch-enemy. It did not shimmer with the ethereal light of the Eldari webway. It tore open into a vortex of pure, blinding, almost offensively bright gold. It was not the sacred ancient auramite of the Emperor's custodians. It was a gaudy, polished, reflective gold. A cheap gold. A loud gold. The psychic shockwave that erupted from it was not one of malice or damnation, but of ego. A singular, overwhelming psychic broadcast of absolute, narcissistic self-assurance. It was a psychic noise so potent and so bizarre that astropaths across the planet clutched their heads not in pain, but in sheer bewildered confusion. From this vulgar golden rift an object plummeted. It was a winged craft, a relic of ancient pre-imperial design, built long before the age of strife. Its metal skin was painted in forgotten national colors of blue and white, though now scorched, melted, and fused by the unenergies of the Imperium. The glyphs on its side, archaic symbols from the dawn of the Age of Terror, were barely legible. AIR, FORCE, ONE. It fell like a wounded bird crashing with a metallic scream into one of the vast continent-sized plazas of the palace. It was a square dedicated to the triumph of St. Drusus, and the ancient craft carved a molten trough through a mile-long procession of granite statues, vaporizing millennia of history, before skidding to a halt against the adamantium boot of a 400-foot-tall statue of Lord Commander Militant Hesperus. The crash was catastrophic, yet the central fuselage remained miraculously, almost stubbornly intact, as if protected by a bubble of sheer improbable self-importance. A moment of profound silence descended upon the plaza, broken only by the crackle of burning promethium and the whirring of agitated servo skulls. Then a sharp hiss of pneumatics. A ramp lowered from the smoking wreckage. From the darkness within, a figure emerged, squinting against the oppressive Gothic architecture and the polluted air. He was not a warrior king, He was not a scarred veteran. He was a man fleshy and pale, clad in strange, archaic vestments, a suit of dark blue fabric, a white shirt, and a long, bright red sash hanging from his neck. This was not the crimson of a hero's sash. It was the red of pure, belligerent defiance. He was Donald J. Trump preserved by the non-linear, chaotic tides of the warp, plucked from his own time and deposited 40 millennia into the future. He straightened his tie, this ancient forgotten sash of honor, and patted down his strange golden-spun hair, which seemed to defy the very gravity of terror with its rigid structure. The reaction was not human. It was divine. It was immediate. Before the man could take a second breath of terror's recycled atmosphere, he was surrounded. They moved not like men, but like golden lightning. The Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's own bodyguard, the 10,000. They materialized from the shadows of the plaza, emerging from alcoves and descending from high ramparts, their auramite plate untouched by the filth of the ages. 10 giants, each a 10-foot-tall demigod, their guardian spears leveled their red plumes stark against the black smoke. Their very presence radiated an aura of absolute authority, a palpable weight of duty and lethal intent. They were the finest warriors humanity had ever produced, and they were for the first time in millennia utterly baffled. Their senses registered the being as baseline human, yet not. He possessed no known clearance, no genetic marker of authority, no psychic signature they recognized. He was an anomaly of profound existential weight, a walking, talking paradox. The Captain General of the Custodes, his armor a masterpiece of artifice and war, stepped forward. His voice, a synthesized boom from his helm, was the sound of judgment itself. He spoke in flawless high Gothic, the language of the Emperor himself. Identify anomaly. Your presence here is sacrilege. Your vessel has defiled the sacred grounds of the sanctum. Speak your designation, or be purified by fire. Trump, dazed, confused, and suffering from the psychic equivalent of a terrible migraine, looked at the giants surrounding him. He saw their glittering weapons, their impassive golden masks, their intimidating height. He did not see protectors of mankind. He saw bad security. He saw a poorly managed event. He looked up at the towering Captain General, his face twisting from confusion to a deep, profound indignation. He brushed the dust from his suit jacket. This is a terrible reception. Just terrible. The worst. I'm supposed to be the guest of honor, and this is what I get. Sad. You're all doing a very poor job. Very poor. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. I have the best lawyers. You have no idea. You're going to be in big trouble. Big trouble. Chapter 1. The Translator Incident. The word of a custodian is law. Their judgment is final. The anomaly's threats of lawyers, a term lost to the ages, presumed to be some form of ancient ritual combatant, were ignored. With movements of impossible speed and grace, 2 of the golden giants holstered their guardian spears, seized the strange, fleshy man by his arms, and lifted him from the ground as if he were a misbehaving child. His protests were loud, repetitive, and utterly incomprehensible. He was not taken to a torture chamber in the dungeons below. The High Lords, in their confused panic, needed him functional. Instead, he was placed in a holding chamber within the inner spires of the palace, a room of staggering, oppressive luxury. It was a gilded cage, a chamber 50 yards high, its walls hung with priceless tapestries depicting the Emperor's victories during the Great Crusade. The furniture was carved from the fossilized bones of extinct megafauna. A single high window showed only the smog-choked bronze sky of holy terror. A food dispenser in the wall synthesized nutrient paste that was scientifically perfect and utterly tasteless. Trump paced the marble floor, his archaic leather shoes clicking in the immense silence. He was not afraid. He was not in awe. He was quite simply deeply annoyed. This is not 5-star, not even close. I've seen better rooms in a failing Atlantic City hotel, and the service terrible, just terrible. No one brings you anything. No one answers the phone. This is what happens when you have bad management. Sad these golden guys, the tall ones. Very rude, very unprofessional. They're failures. He yelled at the door, a solid slab of adamantium 20 feet high. I want to speak to the manager. You hear me? The manager, you're all doing a very, very bad job. His only reply was the impassive, glowing red eye of a servo skull monitoring him from a high alcove. In the Senatorum Imperialis, the High Lords watched the anomaly on a grainy, flickering pict screen. They were paralyzed by bafflement. A Xenos in human form suggested the Lord High Admiral. No, countered the representative of the Inquisition. The scans show human. Baseline ancient stock human. But the mind, the aura, it is blank, yet loud. They could not understand his language, a forgotten dialect of pre-unification terror. They needed to know his intentions. They needed to understand the golden storm that had brought him. They dispatched a tool. Astropath K-88, designated Vox Veritas, was brought from the Scholastia Sicana. He was a frail man, his robes stained with nutrient gruel, his eyes bound in the traditional blessed linen, his mind scrubbed and sanitized for the sole purpose of psychic transmission. He was a living radio, nothing more. He was escorted into the gilded cell by 2 custodes who remained by the door. Trump stopped pacing. He saw the frail, robed figure. Finally, someone who looks like they might actually do something. You. Are you in charge here? The astropath, trembling slightly in the presence of the custodes, ignored the words he couldn't understand and began his work. He raised a shaking hand, placed 2 fingers on his own linen-wrapped eyes, and opened his mind, his witch sight, to the anomaly before him. He braced himself for the usual, the hidden thoughts of a plotter, the dark secrets of a heretic, the sharp, cold logic of a warrior, or perhaps the screaming madness of a mind touched by chaos. He found none of them. He found a wall. Not a psychic shield, but a solid, immovable object. It was a psychic presence of such profound, monolithic, unshakable self-regard that it had no room for any other concept. It was a storm, but not of energy. It was a hurricane of pure, unadulterated ego. His mind was not filled with complex plans or dark secrets. It was a repeating, blaring, deafening broadcast of simple, primal concepts. I, me, best, winning, tremendous, big, sad, losers, fake. The astropath's mind, trained to navigate the complex, treacherous currents of the warp, had no defense against this. It was like trying to analyze a symphony and being hit with a sledgehammer. The sheer, raw, unthinking certainty of the anomaly's belief in himself was a psychic force unto itself. It was a latent, untrained, but enormously potent psychic power, amplified by a narcissistic conviction that he was, and always had been, the absolute center of the universe. The astropath's own consciousness, weak and subservient by design, didn't just buckle. It was overwritten. His mental pathways were flooded, hijacked, and rerouted. The astropath gasped, stumbled back, and clutched his head. He lowered his hand, and for a moment his entire body twitched, his posture shifting from a submissive hunch to a strange, forward-leaning belligerence. Trump, seeing the man stumble, assumed he was impressed. See, I told you. You get me in a room with the top people, we'll make a deal. We'll fix this. This whole place, it's a mess. I've seen it. Very badly run. I'm going to fix it. We're going to build things, great things. The astropath turned not to Trump, but to the towering custodes at the door. He began to speak, but his voice was wrong. His high Gothic was perfect, but the cadence, the rhythm was bizarre. It was clipped, emphatic, and startlingly arrogant. My lords, the astropath, said, his voice a thin, reedy imitation of the anomaly's booming self-assurance. This vessel, he says this holy sanctum is a mess. A terrible, terrible mess. Very badly run. The custodes tilted their helmeted heads, their internal vox beads instantly transmitting this development to the High Lords. The astropath's hands began to move, making small, illustrative chopping gestures. He says he is here to make a deal. He says he will make the Imperium great again. There was a stunned silence relayed across the palace. The astropath took a deep, shuddering breath, his mind now a helpless puppet for the psychic storm. He says he has the best plans. Many plans, tremendous plans, he says. He says you are all failing. Very, very badly. He says your management is sad. Chapter 2. The First Public Address. The High Lords were in a state of quiet existential panic. The psychic report from Astropath K-88 was distributed to all 12 masters of mankind. His words failing terrible mess said were a new kind of heresy. Not the bloody-handed worship of the arch-enemy, but a heresy of incompetence. It was an accusation that had not been leveled at them in millennia primarily because no one had ever conceived that an alternative was possible. They needed to dispose of this anomaly, but the golden warp storm that brought him suggested a power they did not understand. To kill him might unleash something worse. They debated in circles, their ancient protocols useless until a new crisis provided a savage opportunity. In the Justinian sector of the Lower Palace, hives, a riot had broken out. It was not uncommon. This one, however, was different. It was not a religious schism or a mutant uprising. It was a nutrient-paced riot, a logistics error in the administratum, a misplaced decimal point on Form 77 Bomega had redirected 1 million tons of processed corpse starch to a penal world that had already been exterminated. The resulting starvation in the Justinian hive was absolute. The population driven by a base primal hunger had overwhelmed the local Adeptus Arbites patrols. They surged upwards, a living tide of filth and desperation, their only weapons the tools of their factorums and rocks carved from the ancient crumbling masonry. They were screaming for food, for justice, for anything other than the grinding grey misery of their existence. It was then that Lord Chancellor Trazis, his augmetic eyes glowing with cold calculation, proposed his test. "The mob is restless," he intoned. "They cry for a savior, as they always do. Let us present them with one. Let us see if this anomaly can truly make a deal with the hungry. Let us put him on the balcony of sorrows and see if his words can stop 1 million empty stomachs. If he is some echo of the master of mankind, he will calm them. If he is not, the mob will provide the purification." It was a death sentence delivered as a political solution. Trump was grabbed from his cell. The custodes were efficient, their golden gauntlets lifting him with practiced ease. He protested. "Where are we going now, I demand, to speak to the person in charge? This is kidnapping. Very illegal what you're doing." He was moved through halls of breathtaking scale, past statues of forgotten heroes, and through kilometer-long corridors where scribes chained to their desks did not even look up from their work. He was taken to a set of massive 20-story-high adamantium doors. They opened with a groan that shook the foundations of the palace, revealing a vast open space and a rush of polluted, acrid air. He was on a high balcony thousands of feet above the ground, looking down on a sea of humanity. It was not a plaza, it was a canyon, and it was filled wall to wall with a screaming, writhing mass of people. Millions, tens of millions, perhaps more, stretching as far as his eyes could see, a single entity of rage and squalor. The noise was a physical thing, a deafening wave of desperation. At the front of the crowd, tiny figures of Arbites clad in black armor held a thin line, their shock mauls cracking. "What is this? Who are all these people?" Trump asked, genuinely surprised. "Is this for me? A welcoming rally? They shouldn't be angry." Astropath K-88 was shoved onto the balcony with him trembling violently. The man was pale, his lips blue. The psychic strain of channeling the anomaly had nearly killed him. The Captain General of the Custodes escorting them pointed a gauntlet at the crowd. "You will speak to them." The Golden Giant's voice boomed inside Trump's mind, a direct, blunt translation provided by the terrified astropath. "You will fix this, as you claimed." Trump looked down at the crowd. He saw their anger. He saw their banners scrawled in blood and filth demanding bread and death to the lords. He did not see a threat. He saw a crowd. He saw an audience. He saw ratings. He stepped forward to the railing, a small, suited figure against a backdrop of impossible Gothic grandeur. He turned to the astropath. Tell them they are very lucky to have me here. Tell them I'm going to make a speech. It's going to be a great speech." The astropath K-88 closed his bound eyes and opened his mind. He became the loudspeaker. As Trump spoke his words, his intent, his very essence were blasted across the plaza at the speed of thought. It was not a sound, but a direct psychic injection of pure, unfiltered confidence. Wow, look at that crowd. That is a lot of people. Thousands, millions, maybe the biggest crowd anyone has ever seen. You're all very angry. I can see that. Very angry, and you have a right to be. The crowd, stunned by the sudden, overwhelming psychic voice in their heads, momentarily paused. Their screams died down to a confused murmur. This was not the voice of the ecclesiarchy, full of damnation and demands for penance. This voice was different. It was conversational. It was almost complimentary. "You're angry because your leadership is terrible, just terrible. The worst you have people up here in this building," he said, jabbing a thumb back at the Imperial Palace, "who are failures, they're losers, they don't know how to win, they make bad deals, very bad deals, they are low energy." A shockwave of pure confusion ripped through the mob. Losers, low energy. These were not concepts in the Imperial lexicon, but the feeling behind them, contempt for the establishment, was a feeling they knew intimately. "You're all hungry." Trump's psychic voice boomed, projecting his own simplistic analysis of the situation. "No food. That's what I'm hearing. Very bad. This is a simple problem. We're going to fix it. We have the best food. We have so much food you won't even know what to do with it. But the people in charge, they don't know how to manage it. They give it all away." The crowd's murmur grew louder, more interested. "Give it away, that's right. They give it all away. We're sending billions, trillions of thrones to failing worlds. Worlds that don't even like us. They don't respect us. We're paying for their armies. We're protecting planets that frankly should be protecting themselves. And what do you get? Nothing. You get nothing. It's a terrible deal. It's a sad, sad deal." He was on a roll now. He gripped the railing. He didn't know or care about the specifics of imperial governance. He just knew a bad deal when he saw one. "We're going to change it. We're going to change it all. And we're going to start right here. We need security. You look at the Imperium. We have enemies everywhere. Xenos. Horrible, horrible Xenos. They're pouring in. They're not sending their best, believe me. They're sending orcs. They're sending those spiky ones. Chaos. Very bad people. They're coming in and we're letting them. I'm going to stop it." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial psychic whisper that nonetheless filled every mind in the canyon. "We are going to build a wall. We're going to build a great, beautiful, tremendous wall. We're going to build it around the entire solar segment. And it's going to be the best wall you have ever seen. And you know who's going to pay for that wall." The crowd was silent. They were mesmerized. This man was not promising them salvation in the next life. He was not telling them their suffering was the Emperor's will. He was promising them things. Tangible, physical, rich things. He was telling them their anger was justified. He was telling them they were winners who were being cheated. He held the pause for a beat, a master showman. "The Xenos are going to pay for it. The Eldari, the Drukhari, whatever they're called. They're going to pay for it. We're going to win again. We're going to have the best ships, the best armies. We are going to stop being the galaxy's fools. We are going to make the Imperium Great again." He punctuated the last phrase with a psychic fist pump that rattled the teeth of everyone present. For a long, agonizing second, there was only silence. The High Lords watching on their pict screen held their breath, waiting for the mob to tear him apart for his blasphemy. A single voice, a grizzled hive worker near the front who had lost 3 children to the nutrient shortages, broke the silence. He was weeping not from sorrow, but from a strange, terrifying new hope. He didn't understand half the words, but he understood the promise. He will feed us," he screamed. Another voice cried out, "He will build the wall. He will stop the aliens." Then a new thought, a new, impossible, electrifying idea began to form, passing from mind to mind. Who else could appear in a golden storm? Who else could speak with such absolute, world-changing authority? Who else would promise victory and prosperity in the Emperor's name? A fanatic occultist in the front row, his eyes wide with madness, fell to his knees. "It is he," the man shrieked, pointing a skeletal finger at the balcony. "The master of mankind. He has returned. The Emperor is reborn." The word reborn was picked up. It was a spark in a promethium-soaked room. It became a chant. Reborn, reborn, reborn. It grew into a deafening, unified roar that shook the very spires of the palace. The riot had not dissipated. It had been transformed. It was no longer a food riot. It was a political rally. On the balcony, Trump smiled, waved to the adoring, screaming millions, and pointed. "We love you. We love you all." He shouted, his voice now lost in the din, but his psychic message of victory already delivered. In the Senatorum, the Grand Master of the Ecclesiarchy collapsed, his faith utterly broken. The High Lords stared at the screen, their faces the color of ash. Their test had failed. They had not found a scapegoat. They had created a messiah. Chapter 3. The Deal with the High Lords. The roar from the plaza was an earthquake, a political and theological seismic event that sent fractures through the foundations of imperial power. The High Lords were no longer baffled. They were terrified. The mob had not torn the anomaly apart. They were worshipping him. Emperor reborn. The words were the ultimate heresy and the ultimate terrifying political leverage. To kill him now, to purify him, would be to martyr him. It would ignite a civil war on terror itself, a fire that would consume the Imperium's heart. They were trapped. Their ancient traditions, their millennia of arcane procedures, their web of subtle intrigues, all of it was useless against a single blunt psychic broadcast of populist rage. They did the only thing they could. They summoned him. This time, not as a prisoner, but as a peer. Trump was escorted from the Balcony of Sorrows, leaving the adoring, chanting millions behind. He was energized high on the psychic feedback of the crowd. They loved me. It was a great rally, a fantastic rally, maybe the best ever. See, I told you, I know crowds, I know what people want. He was brought to the inner sanctum, the Senatorum Imperialis. The chamber was a vast, dark cavern, its ceiling lost in shadow. The 12 High Lords of Terror sat on thrones of obsidian and granite, elevated on a high dais looking down on him. They were the masters of mankind, icons of absolute power, their faces grim and shadowed. This was the ultimate intimidation. This was the room where the fate of galaxies was decided. Trump, however, did not see demigods. He saw a board meeting, and he saw a room that desperately needed redecorating. "This is where you work," he said, his voice translated by the exhausted astropath K-88 echoing in the cavernous hall. "It's dark. Very dark. No light. It's not a good look. Very low energy. You've got no brand. It's terrible." The High Lords were speechless. Lord Chancellor Trazis, his voice a metallic rasp, tried to take control. "You are an anomaly. You have by accident or design created a disturbance of faith. You have uttered heresy. You have Trump cut him off, a gesture of impatient dismissal. Wrong, wrong. You're the ones who are wrong. Your whole operation here is a disaster. A total disaster. I've seen it. People are starving. The place is falling apart. Your buildings are, frankly, very old. Not in a good way. And the people, they hate you. They're out there right now." He pointed a thumb back towards the distant plaza, "and they're chanting for me." "They're not chanting for you. I don't hear anyone chanting Trazis." "Nobody is chanting High Lords. Your approval rating is 0. It's terrible." He stepped forward, uninvited, towards the dais. The custodies tensed their hands, moving to their weapons, but a subtle gesture from the Captain General stopped them. "You have a problem," Trump continued, now in his element. "This was not a trial. This was a negotiation. I am your solution. I'm a problem solver. I'm the best at it. You people, you talk. You're bureaucrats. You're the deep state. The terror swamp. You don't get things done. I get things done. I build things. I make great deals." Lord Vask the Assassin spoke for the first time, his voice a sibilant whisper. "What deal? Do you propose anomaly? You hold no power here. You are one man." Trump laughed. It was a short, sharp, barking sound that was profoundly alien in that ancient hall. "I have the power. You hear that?" He cupped a hand to his ear. The faint, distant roar of "Reborn, Reborn" was still audible, a rhythmic, billion-throated pulse vibrating through the very stone of the palace. "That's my power. That's my approval rating. They think I'm the Emperor. Now, I don't know about that. It sounds like a lot of work. A lot of work. And frankly, he's not doing a good job. Just sitting up there. Very lazy. A dozen inquisitorial stormtroopers hidden in the rafters almost opened fire at the blasphemy, but the inquisitorial representative held up a hand, his face pale with sweat. But Trump continued, "I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to make you a deal. A great, great deal. The best deal." He laid out his terms. He wasn't the Emperor. That was too complicated. "You can keep your Emperor. He's a good brand. Old but good, strong. But he's not a manager. I'm a manager." He proposed a new title, one they had never heard of, one that made no sense in their feudal theocratic government. "I will be the Lord Regent Executive. It's a temporary position. Very temporary. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to clean up this mess, I'm going to fix your trade deals, I'm going to build some great things, and I'm going to drain the swamp. I'll get rid of all the bad people, the failures, the ones who don't know how to win." He looked at the 12 of them. Some of you might not be here. We'll see. We'll have to see. But we're going to make the Imperium rich. We're going to make it strong. We're going to make it great again." The High Lords looked at each other. It was madness. It was heresy. It was absurd. But the alternative was the mob at their gates. The alternative was a holy war right now on terror. This thing was a tool. He was a distraction. He was a puppet who thought he was the puppet master. He could be their shield. He could appease the masses with his great speeches and his tremendous promises. And when the mob was pacified, when the crisis was over, anomalies could be handled. Lord Chancellor Trazis, his mechanical mind calculating the odds, nodded slowly. "The Senatorum accepts your deal. Temporarily. You shall be Lord Regent Executive until such time as this crisis is managed." Trump smiled a wide, predatory grin. He had won. He stepped forward and pretended to shake the Lord Chancellor's cold metal hand. "Fantastic. You won't regret this. You've made a very smart deal. Very smart. Now let's talk about this room. We're going to need to make some changes. Big changes. Chapter 4, Renovating the Palace. The Lord Regent Executive's first decree was not political. It was not military. It was aesthetic. Now the acting master of the Imperial Palace, Trump immediately found its ancient sacred decor to be lacking. He embarked on a grand tour of the Sanctum Imperialis, a procession that moved with a brisk, impatient pace. He was flanked by the golden giants of the Adeptus Custodes, their impassive helms betraying nothing of the silent existential horror they felt as they were forced to act as his personal honor guard. Behind him, a coterie of terrified administratum scribes scratched frantically on parchment rolls, their quills struggling to keep up with his rapid-fire proclamations. He marched through the Hall of Victories, a mile-long chamber where the skeletons of gargantuan long-dead Xenos beasts hung suspended from the vaulted ceiling. He passed the Avenue of Martyrs, a corridor lined with 10,000 statues of imperial saints, each carved from the petrified bone of a different holy man, their eyes weeping sanctified, perpetually burning oil. He saw arches made of blessed femurs, pillars carved into the likeness of weeping angels, and everywhere on the doors, the flags, the armor of his guards, the very air grills, the symbol of the skull. He stopped abruptly in the center of the grand ossuary plaza, a space so large that its own weather patterns occasionally formed near the ceiling. He looked around, his face twisted in profound, undisguised distaste. This place. It's a dump. It really is. Very, very sad. I've seen crypts with more warmth. No life, no energy. And the skulls. So many skulls. It's too much. It's tacky. Very tacky. Not a good look. It's bad for the brand. How is anyone supposed to feel rich or successful or like a winner when they're surrounded by this? It's negative. Very negative. We're supposed to be winning, right? This doesn't look like winning. This looks like a funeral home. A failing funeral home. He turned to the lead scribe, an ancient wizened man whose entire 1,000-year life had been dedicated to preserving these holy relics. You, Trump pointed, jabbing a finger. Write this down. We're making changes. Big changes. We're going to renovate. The decree was immediate, absolute, and horrifying to every soul on Terra. The great imperial renovation began. Trump ordered thousands of hive work crews conscripted by the billions and overseen by the newly reassigned custodes to begin the cleanup. The ancient Gothic iconography was to be removed. Get rid of it, it's old, it's depressing. We want new, we want bright, he declared. Priceless tapestries woven with the blood of saints and depicting the emperor's divine sacrifice were torn from the walls. In their place, Trump ordered the installation of massive floor-to-ceiling banners. They were not woven. They were cheaply synthesized, printed with a heroic square-jawed and frankly inaccurate rendering of his own face. Next to his image was the new temporary sigil of the Imperium, a stylized golden aquila clutching the 4 bold, high Gothic letters, "Mega make the Imperium great again." He ordered the sacred ancient stone of the palace floors worn smooth by the knees of pilgrims to be covered. "We need marble," he declared to his horrified attendants. "The best marble. From wherever you get it. And gold, everything should be gold. This place is going to look so rich your heads will spin." Within days, the sacred halls of the palace, silent for 10 millennia, became a chaotic, echoing construction site. The holy sound of monastic chanting was replaced by the shriek of plasma cutters, the roar of promethium-fueled machinery, and the hammering of thousands of lobotomized servitors. The hallowed dark chambers meant to inspire awe and reverence were now lit with garish, overlarge crystal chandeliers. The delicate ancient carvings depicting the history of mankind were sandblasted off the walls and replaced with sheets of polished imitation gold plating that reflected the new, brighter lights with a cheap, blinding glare. The effect was not one of wealth, but of staggering, universe-ending vulgarity. It was a holy site rebuilt as a casino lobby. And he wasn't finished. He stood in the center of the Plaza of Martyrs, pointing up past the smog-choked sky. "We need something new, something big, something with my name on it." He turned to a trembling fabricator general from the Adeptus Mechanicus. "You, the robot guy. You're good at building right. The best, you're going to build me a tower." "The best tower? It's going to be the tallest building on Terra. Taller than all of these other ones." He gestured vaguely at the ancient mile-high spires of the palace. "And it's going to be all gold. The whole thing. And at the top, we're going to put my name in giant glowing letters. Trump Imperial Tower. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the new center of the universe. Chapter 5. The Great Wall and Who Will Pay. With the palace renovation underway, a project that involved the daily screaming destruction of 10 millennia of sacred history, the Lord Regent Executive turned his mind to his greatest, most foundational promise. His new Imperial Truth Network, a psychic propaganda machine that broadcast his image and voice 247 across the segmentum, was in full swing. He now addressed the masters of the Imperium from a newly constructed, ludicrously oversized golden throne in the Senatorum, which he referred to as his Terror Command Center. "Our borders are a disaster," his psychic voice boomed, translated by a rotating shift of astropaths who were now burning out at an alarming rate. A total disaster. Everyone knows it. Sad, we have Xenos pouring in. They're coming over, they're taking our worlds, they're killing our people. They're not sending their best folks, believe me. They're sending orcs, they're sending tyrannids, they're sending chaos, they're murderers, they're very bad hombres. We're going to stop it. He unveiled his plan. A grand sweeping gesture. A picked slate lit up, not with a complex military schematic, but with what looked like a crude drawing of a brick wall in space. We are going to build a wall. A great, great wall, the best wall. We are going to build it around the entire solar system. A great, beautiful, tremendous solar wall. The master of the administratum. His skin, the color of old parchment, immediately suffered a catastrophic logic failure in his augmetic brain. The sheer physical impossibility was staggering. It would require the material resources of 100 sectors, the entire output of the Adeptus Mechanicus for 1,000 years. It would be a line of defense so long it was indefensible. It was, in short, the single stupidest strategic concept ever proposed in the history of the Imperium. My Lord Regent, the Adept, sputtered the cost, the resources. It would drain the treasury of everything. Trump simply waved a dismissive hand. The cost. Don't worry about the cost. I'm the best with costs. We're not paying for it. That's the beautiful part. We are not paying for the wall. He paused, letting the psychic drama build. The Eldari are going to pay for it. The silence in the Senatorum was absolute. Of all the pronouncements, this was the most insane. The Eldari. The ancient, dying, scattered race of arrogant Xenos. How, why, but the Lord Regent was insistent. He ordered a message sent, a bill, and the universe, in its grim, chaotic sense of humor, provided an answer. The psychic arrogance of the demand, the sheer idiotic gravity of this new anomaly, was too much for even the farseers of Ulthwé to ignore. A ship, a sliver of wraithbone and light, appeared in high terror orbit, bypassing every defense as if it were a ghost. A delegation was transported directly to the gaudy, gold-plated Senatorum. Leading them was the most ancient of farcers, a being who had walked the stars before the Emperor's crusade had even begun, Eldrad Ulthran. He stood before Trump, a being of immense, cold, ancient psychic power, his eyes a swirling vortex of future sight. Trump, sitting on his new throne legs, crossed, simply pointed. See, they're here. They know they have to pay. Eldrad, good to see you. We have a great deal for you. A fantastic deal. You pay for the wall and we'll stop saying bad things about you. It's a good deal. You're not going to get a better deal. Eldrad Ulthran did not move. His psychic voice, a cold, ancient whisper, slid into the minds of everyone in the room, easily overpowering Trump's own psychic noise. We have seen the paths of the future Child King of Terror. We have seen the great screaming laugh of the thirsting god that you have become. You are not a wall builder. You are a crack in the dam. The Farseer looked past Trump at the golden throne itself, far in the distance. You build a wall of cheap gold to hide your own emptiness. You speak of deals, yet you are a debt that is already being called in. The orcs, as you call them, have heard your foolish offer for Armageddon. They are coming. Not for a deal, but for your skull. The elves will not pay for your wall, but you and your Imperium of fools, you will pay for your arrogance." Trump's face turned red. "Are you threatening me?" That's what it sounds like. A threat very rude. Very, very nasty. "There's no deal. The deal is off." Eldrad simply turned his robes of rune-scribed witch silk whispering. "There was never a deal. There is only the consequence." And with that, the Aeldari delegation vanished, fading like a dream, leaving only the scent of ozone and the echo of their laughter. Trump was apoplectic. He stood up from his throne, his voice a psychic shriek via the whimpering astropath. Their failures, they walked out. No respect. Very unfair. They're not good people. The deal is off. They're going to regret that. They'll see. He paced the chamber, fuming as the High Lords watched this diplomatic catastrophe unfold. Then he stopped. A new terrible idea formed. "Fine. Plan B. It's an even better plan. The Eldari are broke anyway. I can tell. Very low energy. We'll get the money from someone else. Someone who's getting rich off us." He turned to the Lord High Admiral. "Those ships, the fancy ones, the rogue traders. They fly around, they don't pay taxes, they make all the money. They're making a killing. They're laughing at us. They're using our space, our shipping lanes, our Astronomicon. They're very, very unfair. They're ripping us off. Well, not anymore." His voice was cold. "We're going to tax them. We're going to put a big, beautiful tariff on every rogue trader that comes in and out of the solar system. They're going to pay for the wall the Master of the Administratum physically collapsed." The rogue trader dynasties were not just merchants. They were sovereign, ancient, and lethally powerful. This was not a tax. It was a declaration of civil war, while the rogue trader fleets formed a blockade at the edge of the solar system, refusing to ship a single gram of cargo until the Lord Regent's unfair tariff was lifted. A far more biological and violent crisis was metastasizing. The situation in the Armageddon sector, long one of the most brutal war zones in the Imperium, had reached a critical mass. A way of apocalyptic scale was forming. Its leader was the most powerful Orc warlord to have arisen in 10 millennia, a self-proclaimed prophet of the Orc gods Gazgkul Mag Uruk Thraka. His fleet was a tide of rust scrap and pure green-skinned malice, and it was pointed directly at the hive world of Armageddon. In the newly gold-plated Senatorum, Trump's generals, scarred, grizzled veterans who had dedicated their lives to fighting the Xenos, presented the facts. They spoke of unacceptable losses of mandatory tithes of Imperial Guard regiments, of the need for Space Marine chapter mobilization. They showed picked slates of Orc attack moons, projections of planetary-scale slaughter. Trump, lounging on his new uncomfortable golden throne, was unimpressed. He found the briefing low energy and very negative. He cut off the Lord General of the Segmentum Solar in mid-sentence. "Wrong. You're all wrong. You military guys, you just want to fight. You don't know how to make a deal. It's sad. You're spending billions, trillions on this Armageddon. It's a piece of real estate, right? And it's a mess, a total mess. We're losing money on it. Why are we keeping it? It's bad business." The Lord General, a man whose family had died defending Armageddon, was visibly shaking. "My Lord Regent, these are orcs. They are a fungal plague. They do not deal. They exist only for war." Trump laughed, a short, barking sound that echoed in the vast chamber. "Everyone wants a deal. Everyone. They just don't know it yet. These orcs, they're tough. I get it. They're like a very, very bad construction union from an old city. They're loud, they're rough, they like to break things. I know these people. I've been dealing with them all my life. They respect strength. They respect a boss." He stood brushing dust from his red sash and began to pace. "So here's the plan. A great plan. We're going to talk to them. We're going to call them up. I'm going to talk to the head guy. The boss. What's his name? Gaz. I'll talk to him. Boss to boss." The entire Senatorum descended into chaos. To commune with the Xenos was the highest form of heresy. "You cannot," shrieked the inquisitorial representative. "It is forbidden. It is madness. Trump ignored him. Get me the psychic phone. The big one. I'm making a call. It's going to be a historic call. He commanded the Adeptus Astra Telepathica to focus their power. A choir of 1,000 astropaths, their minds linked in screaming agony, were forced to become a psychic conduit. They focused their witch sight on the Whig's flagship Dar World Killer and projected the Lord Regent's thoughts directly into the crude, fungal, and utterly alien mind of Gazgakul Thraka. The message that blasted across the warp was this: to Gaz, the big boss. This is the Lord Regent of Terra. I'm the new management. I see what you're doing. Very strong, very powerful, tremendous work. I like winners. The Orc warlord on his bridge of scrap metal actually tilted his head confused. The message continued. I'm looking at this Armageddon deal. It's a bad deal for me. It's costing a fortune. So here's the new deal. A great deal. You can have it. The planet is yours. No more fighting. We'll sign it over. The message paused as if for effect. But I need a favor. You're good at fighting. The best, I'm told. I've got another problem. These bugs. The Tyranids. Very nasty. They don't make deals. They're bad for business. You're going to work for me now. You're my new contractors. You go fight the bugs, and we'll pay you. We'll pay you very well. We'll pay you in. What is it they like? Teeth. We'll give you all the teeth you want. It's a great deal. You take it. On the bridge of Dar World Killer, there was a long, stunned silence. Gazgkul's massive green brain, which had been processing strategies of slaughter, suddenly had to process economics. He heard, have Armageddon, fight bugs, and pay in teeth. A low rumble started in his chest. It grew into a deep, guttural chuckle, then exploded into an apocalyptic, ship-shaking roar of pure, unadulterated laughter. This, Hume, was the single greatest, funniest, most orky thing he had ever encountered. This wasn't a weak, cowardly, Umi boss. This was a proper boss. He was offering them a planet, a new fight and payment. Gazgkul smashed a giant green fist on his command console, shattering it into sparks. Ha ha ha, I like this Trump, he's got guts. He wants to hire the boys. He's gonna pay us in teeth. That's the best joke I ever heard, he bellowed to his fleet. Forget Armageddon, that place is old news. We're going to Terra. I gotta meet this git. He's the biggest, funniest boss in the galaxy, and I'm gonna crump him last. Wah! Back on Terra. The astropaths collapsed, their minds shattered by the psychic feedback of the galaxy's largest war, turning on a dime and pointing directly at the solar system. The Armageddon crisis was over. The Terra crisis 10 times worse had just begun. Chapter 7, The Fake News Heresy. The Lord Regent Executive's reign was now in full chaotic swing, but his grand pronouncements were hitting a wall. Not a wall of steel, but of parchment. To build his solar wall, he needed the Adeptus Mechanicus. To tax the rogue traders, he needed the Imperial Navy. To move his new golden statues, he needed the Administratum. And the Administratum was the most powerful, intractable, and ancient enemy he had yet faced. It was an organization of such staggering, petrified bureaucracy that a request for a single squad of Imperial guardsmen could take 5 centuries to process. He wanted action. He wanted his wall built now. He was told by a quivering, grey-skinned adept that the initial environmental and spiritual impact study for the wall would be completed in the year M44. This was unacceptable. You're all failures. His psychic voice screamed into the Senatorum, channeled by a fresh astropath who was already bleeding from the ears. You're too slow. We're supposed to be winning, and you're all just processing forms. It's terrible. Very inefficient. We're going to cut this bureaucracy. We're going to cut it in half. We're draining the swamp. This Terra swamp. It's full of terrible people who are trying to stop me. Trying to stop the Imperium from winning. He attempted to fire a sub-prefect of the tithes, only to be informed that the man's office was hereditary. Granted by the Emperor himself during the Unification Wars, and his removal would legally sever the entire segmentum pacificus from the imperial tithe. He was hopelessly, absolutely bogged down. "They're losers," he muttered. "The whole system is rigged." While the administratum was a logistical nightmare, the ecclesiarchy became a narrative one. The Grand Pontiff Decius IX, a man whose faith was as unbending as adamantium, was horrified by the Mega cult and the Lord Regent's gaudy materialistic rhetoric. He requested an audience, arriving in the new gold-plated senatorum with a retinue of somber cardinals. My Lord Regent the Pope began, his voice heavy with the gravity of 10,000 years of doctrine. "We must clarify the message. The people are confused. They cheer for winning. They cheer for wealth. This is not the imperial creed." He gestured to a nearby servo cherub holding a sacred text. "The Emperor is not a god of victory. He is a god of sacrifice. He suffers on the golden throne for our sins. Our lives are not meant for winning. They are meant for penance, for service, for a glorious anonymous death in his name. To be poor is to be humble. To suffer is to be holy. This is the truth." Trump stared at the Pope, his face a mask of utter disbelief. He waited until the old man was finished, then let out a short, sharp laugh. That is the single worst story I have ever heard. Just terrible. Suffering, penance, losing. It's a downer. It's so negative. No wonder this place is a mess. You're telling everyone they're supposed to be losers. You can't win with that message. You're telling the wrong story. He stood from his throne, pacing. "No, no, no. You've got it all wrong. He's not a carrion lord." That's bad branding. Very bad. The Emperor, he was a winner. The greatest winner. He won everything. He built this whole thing. He was very, very rich. He had the best armies. He looked great. He was like me, but, different. That's the story people want to follow, a winner. Not a suffering, whatever you called him. You're pushing fake news. The pontiff and his cardinals were frozen, their minds unable to process this level of absolute, staggering blasphemy. Trump, however, was already moving on. He saw the establishment, the administratum, the swamp, and the ecclesiarchy, the old media, as impediments. He would go around them. He seized control of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica's broadcast network, renaming it the Imperial Truth Network. He installed his own loyal astropaths, the few who hadn't been driven insane yet. From this moment on, the only official psychic message broadcast to the Imperium was his message. It was simple, it was repetitive, and it was loud. "We are winning. We are winning big. The economy is the best it's ever been. We are building the wall. It's going to be tremendous." When reports began filtering in through unofficial channels, reports of the rogue trader blockade causing starvation, reports of the massive Orc fleet, now on a direct course for Terra, Trump's network, went on the offensive. "It's all fake news," his psychic voice bellowed across the stars. "It's a lie. The failing rogue traders are just upset we made a better deal. The Orcs, we have a secret plan. A great plan. They're not coming to Terra. That's a hoax. It's a witch hunt. These traitors in the administratum, these heretics in the ecclesiarchy, they are spreading lies to stop me. They are the enemy of the people." He had done it. He had taken the concept of heresy, the most feared accusation in the Imperium, and turned it on its head. It was no longer a crime against the Emperor. It was a crime against him. Any report of failure, any objective fact that contradicted his narrative, was now officially the fake news heresy. Chapter 8, The Primarch Problem, Firing Guilliman. Far beyond the growing madness of the throne world, in the cold, unforgiving darkness of the galactic rim, a war of survival was being fought. Roboter Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines and Lord Commander of the Imperium, was executing the Indomitus Crusade. He was a being of pure, cold, superhuman logic. He was a general, a statesman, a demigod. He was the Emperor's living son returned from death to save the empire his father had built. His days were spent in strategic perfection, reclaiming star systems, managing supply lines of impossible scale, and pushing back the tide of chaos that had split the galaxy in two. Then the reports from Terra began to arrive. They were not reports of invasion. They were madness. Astropathic choirs were screaming nonsensical phrases. Miga, fake news heresy, tremendous wall. He had assumed with grim certainty that this was a new, insidious plot by Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and manipulation, a psychic plague of pure insanity. He rerouted his flagship, the Macrage's Honor, and a battle group of his finest ultramarines. He had to see this new heresy for himself. He had to save the throne world. When the blue and gold of the Ultramarines fleet breached real space above Terra, Guilliman did not wait for a formal landing. The rogue trader blockade, seeing the sigil of the Primarch, respectfully opened a path. Bypassing all protocol, Guilliman and his Victrix guard teleported directly into the Senatorum Imperialis. He materialized in a flash of azure light, his massive, power-armored form, a beacon of cold, rational authority. And then, he froze. The ancient sacred hall was gone. The millennia of grim, Gothic majesty, the dark stone, the hallowed tapestries, all of it was buried. He stood in a room of such offensive, eye-watering vulgarity that he, a being who had witnessed the birth of stars and the horrors of the warp, was physically stunned. The walls were plated in cheap, reflective gold. Garish, overlarge chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and everywhere on every surface were massive, flapping banners depicting the leering, fleshy face of an unknown man emblazoned with the cryptic, idiotic word, Miga. On the high dais where the 12 High Lords once sat there was now a single grotesquely oversized golden throne, and on it sat the man from the banners, this fleshy, orange-skinned anomaly, tapping his fingers impatiently. Trump looked up momentarily, startled by the sudden appearance of a 10-foot-tall, blue-armored warrior. "Whoa, big guy. Very blue! Is this one of my generals? I didn't approve this. The blue is... I don't know. It's not a good color, not a winning color. Gold is for winners." Guilliman, his mind a fortress of strategic brilliance, tried to process the scene. He looked at the High Lords huddled in a corner like chastened servants. He looked at the bored-looking custodes. He looked back at the man on the throne. The Primarch's voice, when it finally came, was a synthesized growl that vibrated the very air. "What, in the name of the Emperor, have you done?" His question was not aimed at the anomaly. It was aimed at the High Lords, at the Custodes, at the Imperium itself. This was the meeting of the two most powerful forces in the Imperium, the returned pragmatic son and the new insane master. Guilliman did not wait for an answer. He began to speak, his voice radiating cold, absolute authority. "The Segmentum Obscurus is on fire. The Tyranid hive fleets are devastating the eastern fringe. The Warg you foolishly incited is now on a direct course for this system. The rogue trader fleets, the very lifeblood of the Imperium, are blockading this world because of your tariffs. We are on the verge of a multi-front collapse that will extinguish humanity." He leveled a gauntleted finger at Trump. "I am the Lord Commander of the Imperium. I speak with the voice of the Emperor. This farce is over. You will stand down." Trump listened, his expression shifting from confusion to boredom, and then to irritation. "Blah, blah, blah. Excuses. That's all I hear. A lot of negativity. You're Guilliman, right? Sleepy Guilliman. That's what I'll call you. You're very low energy. You're supposed to be a great general. Your numbers are terrible, just terrible." The Primarch stared. His superhuman brain, capable of calculating orbital bombardment trajectories in picoseconds, could not compute this response. "You speak of numbers." Guilliman's voice was dangerously quiet. "You sit in this circus. While the galaxy burns," Trump waved a dismissive hand. "We're handling it. The orcs, it's a negotiation. You wouldn't understand. Very complex." And the traders, they're globalists. They're not from here. They're taking advantage of us. Very unfair, we're making better deals. And you're one of them. You're not looking out for Terra. You're a globalist. The word, a meaningless relic of an ancient age, was hurled as the ultimate insult. It was the final straw. Guilliman ignited the Hand of Dominion, the massive power fist crackling with apocalyptic energy. I will not suffer this. Your reign of madness ends. I am removing you by force, if necessary. The custodes tensed, leveling their guardian spears, but they were pointed at both of them. Their orders were to protect the Lord Regent, the legal appointee of the High Lords. Their protocols were in screaming conflict. Trump saw the hesitation. He saw his opening. He wasn't afraid of the giant blue demigod. He was just an unruly employee. See, no loyalty. Very sad. You come in here, you're sleepy, you're low energy, you're very, very negative. You're doing a terrible job. Just terrible. So I'm going to tell you something, sleepy Robauter. You're fired. The word echoed in the vast golden hall. Fired. A pre-imperial term for dismissal. Guilliman lowered his power fist. The energy discharge dissipated. He looked at Trump. He looked at the cowering High Lords. He looked at the conflicted custodes, and he realized the truth. Terra was not besieged. It was insane. It had been conquered by a psychic virus of pure, unadulterated stupidity. He could kill this man, but the cult outside, the Miga heresy, it was already too late. Roboute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, son of the Emperor and Lord Commander of the Imperium, did the only sane thing left to do. He turned his back on the throne. Keep your broken, gaudy Terra. Keep your job. He addressed the High Lords. When the Orcs arrive, do not call for the Ultramarines. When your economy collapses and your people starve, do not petition Macraga for aid. His voice was cold, final. I am returning to Ultramar. I will protect the 500 worlds. I will maintain an Imperium of reason. I will defend the Imperium from you. In another flash of blue light, the Primarch and his Victrix Guard were gone. An unofficial, undeclared schism had just taken place. Guilliman had not seceded. He had quit. He had left the madhouse to its new golden-haired inmate. Chapter 9, The Trump Guard. The departure of Roboute Guilliman was for the Lord Regent Executive a total and complete victory. He announced it immediately on the Imperial Truth Network. Sleepy Guilliman is gone. He ran away. He quit. He couldn't take the pressure. He's a globalist. He doesn't care about Terra, and I fired him. He was a disaster. A terrible, terrible general. His numbers were bad. Very bad. But that's okay. We don't need him. Yet the Primarch's exit left a vacuum. Trump, in his own strange, paranoid way, recognized it. The Space Marines, the blue guys, were loyal to Guilliman. The custodes, the gold guys, were complicated. They were loyal to the Emperor, to the palace, to their own ancient, boring rules. They were low energy and not fun. They were deep state. He couldn't trust them. Not really. He needed his own army. An army loyal only to him. I know more about military than the generals, his psychic voice announced to the cowering Senatorum. They don't know how to win. I do. I'm like a stable genius. I know about genes. I have the best genes. We're going to use all of that. We are going to make a new army. The best army. Better than the Space Marines. Bigger. He bypassed the traditional military command. He bypassed the Lord Commander Militant and the Lord High Admiral. He summoned the Magos biologists, the genetic engineers of the Adeptus Mechanicus. He found the most ambitious, the most opportunistic, the ones least concerned with the millennia of doctrine, forbidding the creation of new, unsanctioned warrior races. He pointed at a Magos with a suspiciously high number of augmetic limbs. You're going to do this. I want soldiers. The biggest, the strongest, and they have to be 100% loyal to me. To Trump. Not to the Imperium. Not to the Emperor. To me. Do this and you'll be very rich. You'll have all the gold you want. We'll build you a new, beautiful factory. The Magos biologists, seeing an opportunity for unlimited resources and a chance to bypass every ethical and religious constraint, set to work with terrifying efficiency. They did not try to replicate the complex, time-consuming gene seed of the Space Marines. They went for speed and bulk. They took the most robust abhuman stock Ogrins. These giant, simple-minded brutes were already used for heavy labor and auxiliary warfare. The Magos force grew them in cloning vats, pumping them with growth stimulants, steroids, and psycho-indoctrination chemicals. They were engineered for one thing above all: absolute dog-like, unwavering loyalty to the psychic signature of the Lord Regent Executive. Weeks later, the First Legion was unveiled. Trump stood on a balcony overlooking his newly named Trump Victory Plaza. Below him, 10,000 giants stood in formation. They were massive, easily 12 feet tall slabs of pure, distorted muscle. They were not elegant, they were not superhuman, they were just huge. Trump wept with pride. "They're beautiful," he whispered. They were clad in armor, but it was not the articulated ceramite of the Space Marines or the auramite of the Custodes. It was cheap, mass-produced plasteel, spray-painted a familiar, gaudy, non-reflective gold. They carried weapons that looked like guardian spears, but were in fact just massive clubs with crude explosive charges strapped to the end. They were slow, clumsy, and their tiny heads betrayed the intellect of a particularly dim-witted Grox. The Magos explained, "Lord Regent, they are perfect. Their loyalty is absolute. Their cognitive pathways have been simplified for efficiency. They will obey your every command without question, hesitation, or thought." Trump loved them. We'll call them the Goldens, my Goldens, no, the Trump Guard. It's better. A better brand. He immediately assigned them as his personal bodyguards, replacing the boring Custodes. They were in truth useless in actual combat, but they were excellent at shoving fake news scribes standing menacingly behind him during broadcasts and protecting his rallies. They could even be taught to chant their voices a deep, thundering monosyllabic bass, "Trump good, meager, strong." To celebrate his new, invincible army, Trump ordered a grand victory parade. It would march through the newly renovated palace, a display of power meant to intimidate his internal enemies and the in-his-mind hoax Orc fleet. The day came. The Trump Guard, 10,000 strong, marched. Their synchronized, thundering steps shook the very foundations of the palace. They were not built for precision. They were built for size. They marched out into the Victory Plaza, heading for the new, partially constructed Trump Imperial Tower. The plan was for them to perform a sharp 90-degree turn to salute their master. The order was given. The Ogrins, their simple minds processing the turn command, tried to execute it. They did not slow down. They did not account for momentum. The lead company simply turned and kept marching. They marched directly at full thundering speed into the scaffolding and newly laid gold-plated masonry of the tower's foundation. The sound was a catastrophic crunch of tearing metal, shattering plasteel, and collapsing stone. A 100-yard section of the new wall, the most beautiful wall, collapsed into a mountain of glittering golden rubble. The Ogrins, confused by the new obstacle, simply began to punch it, trying to march through. It was a disaster of breathtaking stupidity. The plaza was filled with dust. The High Lord stared in abject horror. Trump, watching from his balcony, went purple with rage for a single second before his showman's instinct took over. He grabbed the psychic broadcast astropath. "Look at that, did you see it? Incredible, my Trump Guard is so strong, so powerful, that the wall couldn't even hold them. It was a weak wall, very poorly made. We're firing the builders, by the way, sad. But my Guard, the best, the strongest, nothing can stop them, total victory. You see, we're winning, so big." Chapter 10. The Witch Hunt. It was in the deepest, most shadowed crypts beneath the Imperial Palace, far from the gaudy, gold-plated mockery of the Senatorum, that the true masters of the Imperium finally convened. They were not the High Lords who were now little more than hostages to the Lord Regent's madness. They were the shadows themselves. Inquisitor Lord Craven of the Ordo Hereticus, his face a web of ancient scars, met with Archmagos Delphima of the Ordo Malleus, her mind a cold, calculating engine of anti-demonic warfare. They were joined by the Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum, who emerged from a patch of darkness as if he were made of it. They were the ultimate hidden authority. They were the will of the Emperor made manifest, and they had seen enough. The High Lords have failed. Craven's voice was a dry rattle. They have placed a thing on the throne of terror. They have allowed this mega cult to supplant the imperial creed. They are complicit. The Archmagos of the Malleus nodded, her metallic voice filtering through a vox grill. The anomaly is not a simple Xenos. It is not a standard psychic mutation. My analysis of the Golden Storm suggests a unique parallel reality bleed. The entity itself, it is a psychic void, a black hole of narcissism. It does not generate chaos, but its actions, its stupidity, are a catalyst for it. The laughter of Tzinch has been echoing in the warp since his arrival. The Weiji he has summoned is a direct threat to the Golden Throne itself. The Assassin Master simply said he is a target. The cost of his removal is high. The cost of his continuance is absolute. The decision was made. It was the darkest, most secret of sanctions, a judgment passed only a handful of times in 10 millennia. The Lord Regent Executive Donald J. Trump was declared Hereticus Diabolus Amens, the heretic of mindless insanity. A secret-coded astropathic message was dispatched bypassing the Imperial Truth Network. It was sent to two key allies. The first was to the Macragge's Honor, now holding a defensive line in the Ultramar system. The message to Robut Guilliman was simple. Terror has fallen to the heresy of stupidity. The Ordo demands your return. We are invoking the Last Wall Protocol. We will purge the palace. You will save the segmentum. The second message was to the shattered remnants of the High Lords, a final offer of redemption or damnation. You will assist in the removal of the anomaly, or you will be declared excommunicate traitoris and be purged alongside him. The High Lords, their brief, disastrous experiment in populism, having led to a rogue trader blockade, an oncoming Orc Waj, and a Primarch's secession, eagerly, pathetically agreed. The true masters of the Imperium were now moving against their own government. The inquisitorial representative in the Senatorum, who had been playing the part of a cowed sycophant, began the operation. He planted whispers. He activated sleeper agents within the palace. He leaked reports to the Imperial Truth Network, true reports of the starvation, the blockade, and the Orc fleet, knowing Trump's ego would force him to denounce them. And he did. Lies Trump's psychic voice shrieked across the planet. A witch hunt. It's a total political witch hunt led by the deep state. The Inquisitors. They're traitors. They're the real heretics. They're trying to stop me. They're trying to stop you. He had taken their most secret, most feared term, the witch hunt, and turned it into a political slogan, yelling it before they could even accuse him. He branded the Inquisition itself as fake news. He gathered his Trump guard around his tower. They're coming for me, he broadcast, because I'm fighting for you. It's a coup sad. The purge had begun, but the target was now screaming that he was the one being purged. The battle for terror was no longer a military one. It was a war of narratives, and the Inquisitors, for the first time in their existence, were losing it. Chapter 11: The Economic Collapse. The Inquisition's witch hunt was a political problem, but the Trump tariff was a physical one. It was a knife plunged directly into the aorta of the Imperium's circulatory system. The Lord Regent Executive, in his infinite business wisdom, had declared economic war on the one group of people who held the fragile web of human space, together the rogue traders. These were not mere merchants. They were Prince King's masters of ancient sacred warrants of trade, commanding fleets that were the equal of many sector navies. They, and they alone, controlled the unstable vital warp routes that connected the million worlds of mankind. and they had been taxed. Their response was not negotiation. It was not protest. It was silence. It was unity. In a pact sealed in their ancient citadels on the fringes of imperial space, the great dynasties von Strab-Harlock and the rest simply stopped. They did not attack Terra. They did not need to. They just anchored their fleets, shut down their Geller fields, and ceased all trade with the Segmentum Solar. The effect was not immediate. The Imperium is vast, and its inertia is that of a dying behemoth. But after weeks, the reports began to trickle in, bypassing the Imperial Truth Network on coded inquisitorial channels. First, it was the Forge Worlds. The great industrial planets, the very heart of the Adeptus Mechanicus, fell silent. Mars, the holy center of the cult Mechanicus, sent an angry binary screed to the High Lords. Their foundries, which supplied the guns, armor, and ships for the entire Segmentum, were running out of essential noospheric data wafers, rare earth metals, and promethium. The bulk freighters from the mining worlds, all exclusively chartered by rogue trader fleets, had ceased to arrive. The Forge Worlds were suffocating. Their binary prayers to the Omnissiah grew desperate, then angry. Production quotas unchanged for 10,000 years were not met. The machine, for the first time in history, was grinding to a halt. Then came the hunger. The Imperium is a beast that must be fed, and its food came from the tens of thousands of specialized agri-worlds planets dedicated entirely to producing grain meat and corpse starch. Their vast continent-sized silos were overflowing. But the ships to move the food were gone. The rogue trader convoys that formed the lifeline to the densely populated hive worlds vanished. On 1 million worlds, the nutrient paste stopped arriving. The riots that had first brought Trump to power now seemed like a distant, quaint memory. This was not a localized shortage. This was a galactic famine. Entire planets, their populations in the hundreds of billions, descended into cannibalistic anarchy. The mega-cultists who had cheered for wealth were now the first to be eaten, their gaudy golden banners used as funeral shrouds. The Imperium, as a functioning economic entity, was dead. The High Lords, now in open, terrified collaboration with the Inquisition, presented this catastrophic data to the Lord Regent Executive. They showed him picked slates of burning hive cities, reports of Forge Worlds going dark. They begged him, implored him to repeal the tariff. Trump looked at the greatest economic collapse in human history, and he shrugged. He was not responsible. It was not his fault. "This isn't my fault." His psychic voice boomed, projecting an aura of absolute, unshakable denial. "It's the rogue traders. They're greedy. Very greedy, terrible people. They're trying to hurt me because I made a better deal. They're traitors. They're part of the swamp." He then turned his fury on the Administratum. "And why isn't this fixed? It's your job. You're the managers. You're incompetent. The food is there. The ships are somewhere. You just can't manage it. You're all failures. You're all part of the deep state. You're just trying to make me look bad, but it won't work. The people love me. We're still winning. This is just temporary. It's fake news." Chapter 12. The Siege of Trump Tower. The time for subtlety was over. The Inquisition's final sanction had been declared. The Last Wall Protocol, the defense of the Golden Throne itself, even from the Imperium's own command structure, was enacted. The signal was given. It was not a grand charge, but a cold, precise, and brutal act of purification. The Adeptus Custodes, the Golden Giants who had been forced to act as the Lord Regent's honor guard, were unleashed. Their internal conflict was resolved. The threat to Terra was no longer external. It was sitting on a gaudy throne in their very midst. Their sacred duty, their only duty, was to protect the master of mankind, and this anomaly, this heretic of mindless insanity, was now a direct existential threat. They moved like lightning, their auramite armor a golden blur. They were joined by the true militant arm of the Inquisition elite, black-clad inquisitorial stormtroopers, their faces hidden behind merciless visors. Their target the half-finished, glittering, vulgar monstrosity that had defiled the palace skyline. The siege of the Trump Imperial Tower had begun. Trump was not caught unaware. He had been screaming about a coup and a witch hunt for weeks, and now that it was actually happening, he was galvanized. He was not a general, but he was a showman, and this was the ultimate show. He barricaded himself in his fortress. The main line of defense was his own creation, the Trump Guard. Thousands of the giant gold-armored Ogrins formed a perimeter around the tower, their massive explosive-tipped clubs held ready. They were stupid slow and tactically useless, but they were a wall of loyal 12-foot-tall muscle. And in front of them was the true shield, the mob. Tens of thousands of mega-cultists, their minds completely colonized by the Imperial Truth Network, had formed a human sea around the tower. The galactic famine and economic collapse had not broken their faith. It had been twisted into the ultimate proof of the deep state's plot against their savior. They were armed with mining tools, scavenged auto-pistols, and a fanaticism that was terrifying to behold. High above them all in his penthouse replica of an ancient Oval Office, the Lord Regent prepared his broadcast. The battle began, and it was immediately simultaneously vicious and ludicrous. The black-clad stormtroopers advanced, first launching gas grenades and firing disciplined bursts from their hell guns to disperse the fanatical mob. But the main event was the clash between the two golden armies. The Adeptus Custodes, the finest warriors ever created by man perfection in motion, versus the Trump Guard, the stupidest, clumsiest brutes in the galaxy. As the Custodes advanced, Trump's own psychic broadcast, channeled by his last terrified astropath, boomed over the plaza, a live narration of his own siege. Here they come, the traitors, the deep state swamp, just like I told you. They're trying to stop me, they're trying to stop you, it's a disgrace, but my guard is doing a great job, the best job, they're fighting very hard. An Ogrin swung his club and missed a custodian by 10 feet. A great hit, a tremendous hit, Trump's voice bellowed. Look at them run, but look at the Custodes. They're no good, I knew it, they're traitors. Very disloyal, they're Rhino Custodes in name only. That's what they are, they're failures, they're with Sleepy Gilliman, sad. The Custodes did not falter. They were demigods swatting insects. An Ogrin chanting mega-strong charged, swinging his explosive club. The custodian captain, Trajan Valoris himself, didn't even bother to dodge. He simply moved his guardian spear, catching the massive club on its haft, and with a single contemptuous twist of his wrist, disarmed the giant. Before the Ogrin's tiny brain could process the loss, the spear's blade had lanced out, vaporizing its head. Another custodian vaulted over a makeshift barricade, landing on the shoulders of an Ogrin, and drove his misericordia blade through its spine. The Trump Guard were strong, but the Custodes were fast. They were a whirlwind of precise, lethal cuts, dismantling the lumbering, loyal brutes with an efficiency that was almost artistic. The Ogrins, too stupid for fear, simply kept charging, chanting Trump good, as they were systematically bloodily dismembered. Above it all, the psychic voice began to crack with panic. This is a fix. They're rigging the fight. It's very unfair. Very unfair what they're doing. Stop the siege, stop the purge. We won this battle, we already won. The golden line of Ogrins broke, reduced to a field of twitching armored meat. The mob was scattered. The stormtroopers secured the tower's lobby, and the Custodes, not bothering with the lifts, ignited their jump packs. They ascended the central atrium in a column of fire, crashing through the plasteel and gold walls of the penthouse level. The doors to the Oval Office were blasted from their hinges. The Custodes squad fanned out their weapons, hot their red eye lenses, scanning the opulent, gaudy room. The chamber was a monstrosity of gold plating, with a desk carved from a single massive crystal. And behind it, cowering, was the Lord Regent Executive. He was not alone. His two remaining astropaths were whimpering under the desk, and standing between Trump and the Custodes was one last massive, loyal Ogrin, his personal bodyguard, Big Jim. The creature bellowed "Trump best" and charged, raising his club. The custodian captain didn't move. He simply leveled his guardian spear. The Ogryn, in its blind, unwavering, idiotic loyalty, impaled itself on the adamantium blade, its own momentum driving the spear through its chest. It gurgled, slid to the floor, and was still. A profound silence fell, broken only by Trump's heavy breathing. He was alone, cornered, his last, stupidest defender dead at his feet. He looked at the 5 golden demigods, their weapons pointed at his heart. Chapter 13, The Verdict. Captain General Trajan Valoris, his auramite armor unscratched, and his red plume immaculate, stepped forward. His shadow fell across the gaudy crystal desk. The other 4 custodes stood in a perfect lethal semicircle, their guardian spears all leveled at the fleshy, unarmored man. The room was utterly silent, the distant screams of the plaza now a muted, conquered backdrop. This was the end. The Lord Regent Executive, the anomaly, the heretic of mindless insanity, was finally, totally defeated. Valoris said nothing. His impassive golden mask was a mirror reflecting the room's cheap splendor and the fleshy man's pathetic terror. He simply waited. Judgment in its purest, most absolute and non-negotiable form had arrived. Trump looked at the dead Ogryn, his last loyal defender, then at the 5 golden giants. His bluster, his psychic aura of absolute confidence, was gone. It had shattered, leaving only a core of base, desperate human fear. But old habits, even in the 41st millennium, die hard. He raised his hands, palms up, in a gesture of negotiation. His voice was a thin, reedy whine. Okay, look. You're tough. Very tough. The best. I've always said it. The Custodes, the best. You won. You did a great job. He tried a smile. It was a weak, trembling grimace that failed to reach his eyes. So, we can make a deal. We can still fix this. A new deal. A great deal. I can stay. I'll be an advisor. I'll help you with the brand. This whole MEGA thing, we can change it. We can work together. Valoris did not speak. He did not move. He did not pass sentence. His contempt was so total, so ancient and profound, that it required no words. He simply tilted his helmeted head a fractional gesture towards the shattered doorway. The Custodes stepped aside, and new figures entered the room. They were not warriors. They were inquisitors of the Ordo Malleus, their black robes a stark, absorbing void against the golden walls. One of them, a woman with a face of cold iron, was followed by 2 servitors carrying a complex humming piece of archaeotech. It was a mobile Geller field projector, a device designed to create a small, unstable, temporary bubble of real space. They were not here to kill him. Death would be a mercy. It would make him a martyr for the mega cult. They were here to evict him, to deport him from reality itself. The Inquisitors activated the device. The air in the center of the room began to tear. It did not open into a gaudy golden storm, but into a small, churning, violent vortex of pure, unadulterated chaos. A pinpoint of hell. No Trump shrieked a genuine high-pitched sound of animal terror. "No, you can't! It's a witch hunt! It's a—" The Custodes seized him. He was lifted from his feet as if he weighed nothing. He kicked, he struggled, his archaic suit tearing in their iron grip. He was dragged screaming towards the vortex. As they held him at the precipice, he, in a final desperate act of defiance, reached for the one weapon he had left, his psychic voice. He tried to make one last broadcast to tell his followers, to tell the galaxy of this ultimate injustice. He was shoved into the rift. His final psychic message, amplified by his terror and rage, blasted across the segmentum. But his mind, collapsing under the strain and the unreality of the warp, could not form coherent thought. The message was a blast of pure, nonsensical, angry static, a psychic scream that ended in a single, meaningless, garbled word that would baffle Imperial scholars for millennia. Kafef. The vortex snapped shut. The anomaly was gone. The room was at last silent. Chapter 14. The Legacy of Chaos. The anomaly was gone. The golden, gaudy Trump Imperial Tower, its structural integrity compromised, and its symbolism an intolerable heresy, was scheduled for purification by cyclonic torpedo. But the psychic stain remained. The silence left by the Lord Regent's final nonsensical scream was filled by the wails of a starving, burning terror. The Mega mob, their savior, vanished into a hell rift, did not disperse. Their faith betrayed, curdled into a new nihilistic rage, a riot without purpose. It was into this maelstrom that Roberto Guilliman returned. His Indomitus Crusade fleet, answering the Inquisition's desperate last wall protocol, arrived to a system in total collapse. The rogue trader blockade, having heard of the Regent's removal, began to allow critical food and medical ships through, but the damage was done. The Primarch son of the Emperor had left a terror of frustrating stagnation. He returned to a terror of catastrophic howling madness. Guilliman's task was not one of governance, it was one of sanitation. The first order was the physical wreckage. The great solar wall, the half-finished, ill-conceived monument to cosmic stupidity, was floating in high orbit, a massive, unnavigable debris field of fused scrap and rockcrete. It was a navigational hazard of such epic proportions that it would take the combined fleets of the Imperial Navy and the Adeptus Mechanicus a century to clear just one safe shipping lane. The economy was shattered. The famine engineered by the tariff had killed trillions, and the greatest threat, the one born of the art of the deal, was still coming. Gazkul Thraka's Warg, having heard the hilarious offer but not the subsequent purge, was still on a direct, unstoppable course for the throne world. The Orcs were coming to Terra to meet the funniest boss, and they would not be disappointed by the fight. But the ships, the famine, the Orcs. These were physical problems. Guilliman, the master of logistics, could in time solve them. The true incurable wound was spiritual. It was a heresy of the soul. The Lord Regent's message, broadcast 247 by the Imperial Truth Network, had not just been heard, it had been believed. Billions across the Segmentum ground, down by 10 millennia of sacrifice penance and the promise of a reward only in death, had been given a new, intoxicating gospel. A gospel not of salvation, but of wealth. Not of humility, but of winning. Not of the next life, but of this one. The ecclesiarchy tried to restore the old faith, to preach the nobility of suffering. But the new cult, the cult of Miga, had already taken root. It was a heresy not of blood, but of aspiration. The Miga cultists did not worship the Emperor as the suffering carrion lord. They worshipped the Trump Emperor, the Lord Regent reborn, a god of golden towers, of personal victory, of divine, unapologetic selfishness. Their new creed spread like a psychic plague through the disillusioned hive worlds. Poverty is heresy. Humility is failure. To suffer is to be a loser. The Emperor is a winner, and so are we. The Imperium, already split in half by the Great Rift, was now fractured internally. It was no longer a simple, brutal fight against the Xenos and the archenemy. It was now a grinding, ideological civil war fought in the streets and in the hearts of men. It was a war between the grim, dark faith of selfless sacrifice and the new, gaudy, glittering heresy of selfish populism. In a plaza on Terra, an inquisitor, his face hidden by shadow, watched the final act. A massive, solid gold statue of Trump erected by his followers was being pulled down by laborers with massive chains. But the crowd below was not united. They were fighting each other. One half screaming Miga tried to protect the golden idol. The other half screaming heretic tried to replace it with the traditional imperial Aquila. The Inquisitor sighed, his breath fogging in the toxic air. Not even the Lord of Chaos, he whispered, could have devised a division so utterly, so profoundly meaningless.